In 2023, BMW launched the i5 and immediately it impressed us. It impressed us so much that we declared it our Car of the Year in the AutoEV Awards. We thought it looked great. It was brilliant to drive. It was dripping in technology, but not technology that we found overwhelming. It drove exactly like a BMW 5 Series should, but more than that, it was finally an electric car that drove like a BMW should. It was simply a brilliant all-rounder. In fact, so impressed were we with the car that we thought we would struggle to find a way in which BMW could make it any better. Yet that's exactly what they've managed to do. Welcome to this week's road test review. Welcome to the new BMW i5 Touring. And as if it needs to be said, welcome to AutoEV. Now, before we get started on this week's road test review of BMW's new i5 Touring, it is of course the time where I would ask you to make sure that you're subscribed to the AutoEV channel. Then once you've done that, make sure you've also pressed the little bell button that's down below, because that's the way you get notified if when our next video is uploaded and it's gone live. Once you've watched it, and if you enjoy it, which hopefully you will, give it a wee thumbs up. And of course, don't forget, leave us your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let us know what you think about the cars we review, such as the new BMW i5 Touring, and of course on the AutoEV channel as a whole. Now, the 5 Series, it's 52 years old this year, believe it or not. 8 generations that we've had it for, but it wasn't until the 3rd generation, the E34, halfway through its life cycle in 1990, that a Touring model became available. And the load lugger has been sort of like a constant sort of like presence in the 5 Series range ever since then. However, given the sort of the popularity and, dare I suggest, the dominance of the SUV these days, you would almost have forgiven BMW if they turned around and said, we're not going to do that anymore, we're just not worth it, let alone developing an electric estate car for the range. But that's exactly what they've done, because they say there is still a market there and people do still love their 5 Series Tourings. And I think this one could be the pick of the i5 range. But before we start, let's take a look at what the BMW i5 Touring is all about. So the Touring follows the successful launch of the saloon variant of the new BMW 5 Series, offering both internal combustion and electric drivetrains, just like its 4-door sibling. Like the saloon, the car is offered in 2 versions. A single motor eDrive 40 we have here with 335 brake horsepower, or the bombastic dual motor M60 with 600 brake horsepower. Both models feature the same 81 kilowatt-hour battery, allowing for a WLTP range of between 310 and 342 miles. And prices start from just under £70,000 and go up to just under £100,000, depending on trim level chosen before options. Which, as we'll find out a little bit later, can be a lot of money. So given everyone's love of big, large, premium SUVs, is it worth it? Well, of course, the only way we can find that out is by putting it through the road test that actual car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric vehicle. It's the AutoEV one. The AutoEV road test review is brought to you in kind partnership with Anderson EV, the British designed, engineered and built home charging solution that blends the best of technology with the finest of aesthetics. With a choice of 2 different units available to provide either a 7 kilowatt or 11 kilowatt charging, and over 240 different design combinations to choose from, the Anderson EV home wall boxes are the only charging units to fully conceal their cables and come with an industry-leading 7-year warranty. Anderson EV are for those of you who love your home as much as your car. Styling. Well, BMW, I think, are getting their act together when it comes to styling, I have to say. It's not everyone's cup of tea, the new 5 Series, but I think it's a handsome beast. I think it's one of the best designs over the last few years, I've got to say. And I think it's not as fussy, it's not quite as controversial as some of the cars are. Yes, it's a bit heavy looking in places, but you know what? It's a handsome beast and I really, really like it, especially in touring form. As I say, it just kind of suits being an estate car quite well. Now there's 3 trim levels basically available. There's now a sport edition, a sort of lead-in sport edition, which does away with some of this kind of blackness at the front. I'll go on to the trim levels when we talk about pricing, but this is an M Sport Pro, so this is sort of the middle kind of the middle of the range, but it's an eDrive 40, which is the lower powered drivetrain, but again that's for later on. But it's exactly as we saw with the saloon model, because the saloon we had last year was the M60, which obviously is the M Sport. Look at the front. You get these beautiful kind of LED matrix lights that just kind of curve round into the wings here that I do like. The grille is not overwhelming, thank God. You know, it is still the sort of BMW double kidney. And with this one you get the iconic glow, which I really like. You know, the little LED strip that goes round, it just frames the grille. And of course it's not a grille because it's all filled in, but it hides the technology. You've got, again, the kind of radar sensor in there for the radar guided cruise control. I still have the little beef that why the little camera is off centre. Sits in that kidney. Why is it not centred there? That annoys my OCD a little bit. I don't understand why it's not centred, but it isn't. But there you go. And all the cooling is obviously done down at the bottom here. Now, as I say, remember, the i5 is also available with combustion engine, so it's a normal 5 Series as well, where that is a little bit different because there is cooling up there, obviously, for the engine. But at a glance, the 2 cars are pretty much identical. You get this beautifully sculpted bonnet, again with the BMW roundel just kind of nestled in between the kind of 2 kidneys there, with the little blue flash around it because obviously it's the electric one. And as I say, there's the black kind of trim that's around this because of the M Sport Pro. I particularly like this green colour. The name escapes me, but I will remember what it is in a little bit later on, but I do like it. It looks kind of grey-blue, but they call it a green. But it does look nice. Round the side, as you can see, the last bit to talk about is nice airflow management there. You get a nice bit of venting there that takes airflow round and round the sides. So yeah, from the front, it is pretty much as you expect to find from the i5 saloon when it's an M Sport trim, guys. And that is to say, a handsome looking beast, I think. Cape York Green Metallic. It was bothering me, so I've just looked it up. It's a lovely colour, I really like it. Right, same length as the saloon, so there's no any additional length when you go for the touring, but I just think its styling looks a bit better balanced. A lot of people don't like the sloping boot lid that you get on the new 5 Series saloon. I do, I don't mind it, but there's no doubt in my mind at all that the touring is a better balanced design. But as I say, it's the same length of car, which is interesting. Now, the 19-inch wheels are standard when you go for the Sport edition, the base car. These are 20s. These are the M Sport aerodynamic wheels, bi-coloured wheels. And I do think you're going to need 20-inch wheels on the car, if I'm being honest with you, because I think with the 19s it looks a little bit like, you know, basic sort of like sales rep special, and it doesn't harm the ride at all in the car. So if you're going to plump for an option, I would go for them because they do fill the arches a bit better and they do look a bit nicer, I think. There isn't any kind of controversial sort of like panel work on the car. It's all very smooth, it's all very flat. There's 2 lines that you get, 2 strong lines. This shoulder line here that comes out of that front wheel arch and runs all the way right to the back lights. That's a really strong, crisp line where it just folds over into the shoulder line here. And then the other one that's down here that goes from the front wheel arch up and then just sweeps up and then disappears just by this wheel arch here. And then below that you've got your gloss black sort of like lower cladding to sort of like, again, pinch that bodywork in. And of course that's mirrored by the gloss black you get on the pillars here that just blends this glass house in. You get these nice standard fit integrated roof rails with the car, so you can add on things obviously like roof bars for roof boxes and bike carriers and so forth. It's again going on the practical side of things. You've got that. Lovely flush door handles. This one's got comfort access as part of the options. We'll talk about options in the pricing section because there are quite a few, but that's nice, you know, the sort of like the nice kind of flush door handles there. They don't pop out or do anything silly. You just put your hand in there and pull them out. They're nice. Good sized door mirror, again with integrated LED turn indicators there and a small bit of tech in there, the little camera there. A lot of technology on the car, as we've now come to expect. And then of course this is the big difference at the back here, the sort of like the rear end of the vehicle, which I say just gives it a really well balanced, well defined and really nicely proportioned look to it. And when I was talking about that better proportioned kind of look, This is what I'm talking about here, because obviously you've got this black plastic that is quite heavy-handed on the saloon, and because there isn't so much bodywork above that on the saloon, it's quite dominant. Whereas on touring, because you've got more bodywork there, that is a lesser effect, I feel, with that kind of black plastic that's down at the bottom there. So that's why I think the touring is the better looking of the two cars. Again, sweeping LED tail lights that kind of come into the boot lid here. Interestingly, you no longer have the separate opening rear glass window, which is a little bit of a loss. I like that. My sister-in-law has a 3 Series Touring, and it's really handy. Just, you know, you forget you've got some jackets, you pop them in and out with the kids' jackets. So you're taking your rucksack out the back, you can just open the glass hatch and just throw them in or out. But it's because of the shape of the car and because of this more aerodynamic rear spoiler to aid with airflow, to obviously help with efficiency and range. That's the reason that you can't have it anymore, which is a bit of a shame, but I suppose the benefit is that better range. Again, a really nice kind of clean rear end. You get your i5 badge there, your round all there as you expect with the blue ring round it, and then just your nomenclature across here, and it's saying this one's the eDrive 40. Obviously badge deletion is an option which you can still have. Reversing camera is tucked underneath there with a little washer nozzle, and then your boot release handle just underneath there. And as I say, down at the bottom is this black plastic sort of like diffuser section that you can see is kind of moulded for airflow. Reversing light down there, and that's your lot. Handsome car, I think. I think it's a really, I've always liked BMW Tourings. I think there's a real, they always look really well balanced. They always just suit the proportions well. They don't look like something's just been bolted on the back of them. It's a really, I think they've always managed to do estate cars really well, BMW. And I think, as I say, their styling is very much back on track after a few years of questionable sort of like what they were doing. We're still getting out of that. My iX2 still isn't perfect, and we've still got that hideous thing, the XM, sits at the top of the range. But I think the i5 Touring is probably, yeah, I think this is probably the best looking BMW that I've seen in a long time. What do you think? Do you agree? Have you got one of the old 5 Series Tourings? Would this tempt you? Would this tempt you away from, say, a Volvo V90 or a BMW, sorry, a Mercedes-Benz E-Class estate? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. But you're not going to be buying it because of the way that it looks. You're going to be buying it because you need the practicality. And you've got plenty of that. Electric tailgate, standard. It also has one of those kick things, you know, you can put your foot underneath and it opens up, but I can never get those to work. Look at this, isn't this nice with this cover here? So that's it fully sort of like extending. If you just tap it, it goes halfway, and then tap it again, it goes all the way out. That's 570 litres of boot space, which is 90 more than you get in the saloon and 70 more than you get from the big iX, the all-electric SUV. That's brilliant. We've got the 4 AutoEV suitcases in standing kind of upright there, as you can see, plus there's space for my camera bag, more rucksacks, and there's also space for the separate charging cable bag down the side there. That's the only thing I'd quite like, BMW. Could you find maybe a more kind of a nicer way of storing that? You know, that KGM that I had the other week with the bag that slots down the side, that was quite nice. Anyway, it's, you know, it's neither here nor there, isn't it? Right, let's have a look at this space. If you fold the standard 40-20-40 rear seat down, then you will extend the total carrying capacity up to 1,700 litres, which is huge. And you can do that from the boot here. You just pull those levers, there you go, and that's it down there. And they fold fairly flat as well. It's quite rare to see that on an electric car, where the squab doesn't go up first. They fold fairly flat all the way through. That's excellent. You've also got underfloor storage here, so you've got sort of like extra, you know, the net, you know, for the kind of dog guard style net that goes in the back there, and you know, sort of first aid kit down there, and other little bits and pieces which you can store underneath the boot floor. It's all neat the way it's trimmed as well. That's what I like too. The other nice thing about it, as an option, you can have a deployable tow bar, so you can tow with the car, and it's also quite handy as well if you've got sort of like, you know, those bike racks that just fit on the tow bars as well. So if you can in the roof box and you need bikes on it as well, you can have the car with a deployable tow bar. But that makes the car exceptionally practical in my book. The other thing that's worth noting as well is the height of the load bay, if that makes sense. So if you think that's my knee there, and I'm not a particularly tall man, it is quite a low sill, you know, so you're not having to lug things up into like a big SUV. That's where the estate car really wins in my book, you know, so it's a much lower car to get things into, so whether it's wheelchairs or pushchairs, golf bags, suitcases, dogs. You know, there's not the sort of, like, you know, the height that you would normally associate with an SUV with an estate car like this. The other thing that I should have mentioned as well is even with the eDrive 40, you get air suspension at the back of it. The M60 gets full adaptive suspension all round, but the eDrive 40 gets air suspension at the back, so it's self-leveling, so even putting a heavy load in the back isn't going to upset the balance of the car. And you've also got sort of like, you know, little kind of hooks to hang things off, and a 12-volt socket in the back there. So for instance, if you're using one of those, you know, plug-in sort of cool boxes, you could, or you know, you need to charge things up, you know, whilst you're driving, or using sort of like, you know, accessories to blow up, you know, with like dinghies or your bike tires or whatever. You've got power takeoff in the back there as well. So as I say, an amazingly practical car. Plus as well, you've got this nice kind of metal finish here as well, so you're not kind of, as you're taking things in and out, you're not scuffing across paintwork here. Yeah, good car. Now, backseat accommodation is ample. It's really good back here. However, what I will say is, bear in mind, you can have this as an internal combustion engine car. So you've got a transmission tunnel because the car's rear wheel drive. So you've got a transmission tunnel. So 3 across means that although there is space for a third person, they're going to have to sit with their feet either side of that tunnel. That being said, the space on either side is more than adequate. You know, that's my driving position. As you know, I don't sit particularly far back from the wheel, but I like my seat nice and low in the car, and I can still get my feet well underneath the driver's seat. And I'll say if somebody was sitting in the passenger side, it'd be exactly the same there. So from that point of view, foot room's good, knee room's exceptional, you know, as I say, again, for me, even if I was sitting by somebody of sort of like 6 foot, I'm sure that there'd be more than enough room for me to do a good few hours behind that person. So, you know, for kids or you know, sort of like, you know, sort of young adults, there isn't going to be a problem at all here. Now, this car's fitted with the optional panoramic sunroof, which floods, you know, sort of like light into the car, and it looks lovely. I really like panoramic roofs, but as I say, it will eat into headroom a little bit because it's got the electric blind, so there's a tiny little bit, maybe a ½ inch to an inch, lost a little bit with that. Storage, well, that's a bit disappointing in fairness. There's no mat pockets on the backs of the front seats. Don't know why BMW don't fit them. That's really odd. There's door bins, but they're not lined, you know, they're just the scratchy plastic on the bottom, though the actual side of them are thick and it feels solid, which is good. 4 USB ports. You've got 1 in the back of each of the front seats and 2 down there, and you've also got the little clip. I think that's for an iPad holder. You can buy a thing for holding iPads. Sorry, other storage I should have mentioned as well. There's a little tray underneath there that's be good for a packet of polos, and you get your flip down armrest with your 2 cup holders here as well, so that's all good. What else have we got in the back? Well, up at here you've got your location points for the luggage net. As I say, if you want to make it just a 2-seater, you know, if you've got dogs or things, you can do that. And there's some nice little map reading lights at the top here as well, which are there. You've got rear climate control ability as well here, you know, so for cooling, and there's vents just down the side of the pillar here. They're well concealed, but they are there, and they're movable as well, so backseat passengers can get good ventilation in the car. The seat itself is beautifully sculpted. I mean, there's a lot of under thigh support, and you sit down at the bum and, you know, it lifts you up at the knee, which is lovely. It's really nice, and you get nice padded head restraints. So again, as I say, it's a little bit disappointing in the terms of the lack of storage, and of course you've got to put up with this centre transmission tunnel. But in terms of overall space, if it's just the 4 of you or whatever, there's more than enough space, you know, that's adequate in the back here for this size of car. Oh, one last thing to point out, as I normally do, ISOFIX points. There again, the usual BMW fare, nice and easy to get to, so you can just lift up the plastic covers and then the seat clips in there. And I would suggest there's probably more than enough space there if you've got one of those big ones, you know, that you have to swivel once you kind of put it round in there to be rear facing. So yeah, there's certainly plenty of room in the back of the car for most people's needs. Right, there's not a massive amount to sort of go over here in many ways, because we've done the interior of the i5 when we road tested the M60 Saloon last year. which I'll pop a link up to above. So if you want a more detailed review of the interior, you'll find it there, but I will go back over it as well. Plus as well, in fairness, BMW interiors now are all pretty much of a muchness. They all have this beautiful curved display here. I think it's 15.3 inches here, 12 point something inches in front of the driver. You know, it's all integrated into one. It's a great operating system. So there's a lot to like about it. But as I say, we've done an awful lot of it before. I will quickly go through it if you haven't seen one of those videos, but as I say, for more in-depth review, go and have a look at one of the other BMW videos. Right, operating system 9, I think we're now on with the BMW iDrive, as it used to be called. This car's got the crystal clarity controls, so you've got the kind of glass iDrive controller, gear selection thing, and the little volume control here. Is it worth that? I'm not sure it is. The standard one works well enough as far as I'm concerned. The other nice thing is you get all the buttons grouped around the controller here, so shortcut buttons for nav, telephone and media, and the home button, and then there's your My Modes, your track search, parking camera, and to jump into your driver settings shortcut button as well. So that's nice and easy. So you don't have to rely on the screen all the time. When you do, however, if you do go into it, you can see there's all the apps there, and there's quite a few of them. But obviously you can cut that down. But if you want to go straight into infotainment, you know, for just things like media and such like, or vehicle settings, which is there. And obviously it's got BMW gesture control, as you can see, because I keep moving my hand. That's what it's doing. It thinks I'm trying to turn the volume up. So if I do that, that's turning the volume up. You do that. So that's turning the volume up. Turn it that way, it's turning the volume down. So that's all there as standard too. Climate control, always at the bottom there. A little bit fiddly perhaps, but it is, once you kind of get used to it. Again, there's your heated and ventilated seats and heated steering wheel if you've got those options fitted. That's where they are. If you want to go into the main climate menu, you press a little fan speed there, and there you go there, so you can use your fan speed if you want automatic control, you want to sync up both sides, and then there's your temperature control at either side there. You've also got physical control around the vent, although it's this little slit at the bottom of the dash here. Lovely the way it's well integrated in here, but you get the little rubber controls there, and then switching them on and off via sort of like just touching the veneer itself, this glass band that runs across here, which as well as your ambient lighting. I really like that ambient lighting in the car. So if you press the My Mode, you'll see how it changes. So if you go into, say, Sport, it now changes to be the 3 colours of the M Sport, you know, the tricolore, the red, the blue and the purple, which is quite nice. And then again, you know, if you go into I think the other one is Expressive, I think it all goes a bit kind of yellowy green there you go. And you get that Hans Zimmer engine note in inverted commas that comes in through these modes as well, so that's quite good too. I mean, it's just a nice place to be, and everything just works well. There's your digital art, which I still don't understand what that is. And then relax. Oh, that shuts the blind. That's what I don't want to do, because but again, that changes everything to like a nice kind of bluey green, aqua blue colour. So yeah, so that's the sort of like the main points of the infotainment system. It's clear, it's well done, it's got wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, as you would expect. And the driver display in front of me here, again, is really nicely laid out too, and you can configure that. So by pressing the button on the steering wheel, you can just go in and tell it what you actually want to see, how much or as little as you want. There's also an augmented reality for the sat nav, so it uses the little camera that was on the front of the car and overlays the picture there. So again, if you're coming up to a junction or a roundabout, you'll see it come up there, or on the dash if you've got it set up for that, and then it'll have an arrow sort of like show you which junction or which exit to take. Works superbly. I really got on well with it, and I really do like it. There's a great head-up display, which like this you can configure depending on how much or how little content you want it to show as well, which is superb. And then it's just really kind of down to, dare I suggest, the materials that's used in the car. Now this particular one's obviously got the leather seat trim, which is beautiful, you know, soft leather that's on the seat. And you're not sure what is real leather and what's not. That's the great thing with BMW. They've got that off to an absolute art, I think. So I would say that's artificial up the top there, but it doesn't feel it. And nor when you're looking at it, it's got that nice matte finish to it, rather than a kind of shiny, glossy look to it, which is lovely. This kind of glossy carbon fibre here, I'm sure you can change that. Don't know if I'm so keen on that, but I prefer it to this glossy black plastic, this piano black stuff, which I'm just getting a bit bored of now. Wireless charging pad for your mobile in front there. Cup holders in front there. Decent little cubby there for wallet, sunglasses and polo mints. And door bins down in the side there, which aren't lined actually, but again, like the back ones, they feel solid and there's enough sort of, like, you know, plastic in them, things won't rattle too much. And then you've just got all your controls grouped on the door as you would expect, your mirrors, your electric window switches, and then up in this bit here of the door you've got your electric memory seats and then your lights in front of your knee there. It's just all well laid out and everything's within easy reach. That does take a lot of getting used to, in terms of, you know, as I say, it looks overwhelming at first, but you're not going to be using all of that all of the time. Once you get things set up, why is it making that humming noise? Is it because I'm in that? There we go, stop now. Once you kind of get used to where you need everything to be and you've set everything up, you won't delve into that too much. And I say there is voice activation too, so you can do it through your voice. There's my usual bugbear, the steering wheel's too thick. I just don't personally get on with these thick wheels that BMW fit. Some people do like them, I personally don't. But the wheel itself is a nice design, the 3-spoke, and you've got well laid out buttons here, so your cruise controls and driver assistance on the left, and then media control, phone, and then, as I say, for altering what's on the dashboard on the right. Nothing too overwhelming, and they're proper physical buttons. You've got to press them to make them work. Get your boost paddle behind the wheel there, which I'll talk about when I'm out driving, and then the usual kind of BMW lovely column stocks that just have that nice kind of click to them. They work really, really well. The interior is a special place to be. It feels expensive. It is expensive, the car, but the interior feels expensive, and that's the nice thing about it. It all feels like it's going to last. It feels really well built. Because I live with the BMW, I know all about that, and I've got used to that. That's the only thing. It will take a little bit of getting used to, but as I say, you're not having to go into it all the time to do things. You know, so, you know, once you've set things up, you're not going to really go back into that. And as I say, there are shortcut buttons for the things you need, such as the nav, the telephone and the media. And as I say, there's voice control as well. You've also got Amazon Alexa. So you can control, you can set it up for your Alexa account. So, you know, if you're driving home or something, you want to switch on the heating. Sorry, switch on the heating or the lights or something, you can ask it to do that as well. So the integration of technology into our everyday lives is good, and that's what I was saying about when I started the review. The way the technology the car has, it's dripping in it, but it's not overwhelming. It's stuff that you're going to use, not stuff that just is a bit too, it's not there for their sake, is what I'm trying to say very badly. The seats are the last thing I want to talk about because they are just sublime. I love these seats. They are just so comfortable. When we had the M60 last year, I did some big trips in that car, and the seats are superb. And I find BMW seats on the whole really good. You know, I've been to Scotland in i7s, the iX, and my own iX2, and the seats are always very supportive and really nice, you know, to do the long drives in. These feel even better than my iX2 seats. You know, just the way the soft and the suppleness of them, and of course they're heated and ventilated in this particular car, which probably helps as well. So what we've got is the same as we had before the i5 Saloon. There's nothing new to really talk about in here. It all works really, really well. Yes, it does seem like there's an awful lot to get used to at first, but once you figure out that actually once you've set it up, you're not going to be delving into that too much. It's easy to use, but the main point is it's another classy, well-built interior from BMW that just works. Now, 81 kilowatt hour battery is what the car has, which according to WLTP figures should give it a range of around about 345 miles in this eDrive 40, guys. It's a little bit less if you go for the M60 model. In fairness, I think you're probably looking more around 280 miles as a sort of like an overall more kind of realistic real world figure, if I'm being blunt about it. Charging speed. 205 kilowatts, meaning that a 10 to 80% charge just drops below the 30 minutes, around about 26 minutes. But the car does have an onboard 11 kilowatt charger, meaning that you can go from flat to full in around about 8.5 hours. If it's a more likely 7 kilowatt wall box that you have, that time's going to increase to around about 11.5 hours. Now, if you are looking for a 7 kilowatt wall box, then you need to take a look at Anderson EV, proud partners of the AutoEV road test review. They're the British designed, engineered and built home charging solution that blends the best of technology with the finest of aesthetics. With a choice of 2 different units available to provide either 7 kilowatt or 11 kilowatt charging capabilities, and over 240 different design combinations to choose from, the Anderson EV home wall box is the only charging unit to fully conceal the cables within the unit and come with an industry-leading 7-year warranty. Anderson EV are for those of you who love your home as much as your car. Okay, so if you remember, the i5 we drove last year was the M60, which is dual motor, 600 horsepower. That's a proper sledgehammer of a car. But we've always found, sort of like, or certainly in the majority of cases, the lesser models in the electric range of BMWs tend to be, dare I suggest, the sweet spot. And I think the same now is true of the i5. I love the power of that M60, I really do. But there obviously are times where you don't really want it. And dare I suggest there's maybe a little bit more corruption at the front axle with power going through there as well as steering. Whereas this obviously is a single motor car, rear wheel drive, like BMWs always have been, or majority of them always have been. And yeah, I think this could be the one. So it's the eDrive 40. It is 335 brake horsepower. It does 0 to 60 in 6.1 seconds, which is plenty fast enough for a big, large family estate car, I think. And 400 Newton meters of torque. So there's certainly enough torque there, and of course, as usual with an electric car, it's available immediately. As soon as you want it, put your foot down and it's off. Yeah, so it's good in that sense. It's going to sound a bit corny, this, okay, but I'm not sure that I've driven a car of late that you feel more at one with than the i5, and that's why I love this car so much. There's just something about it. You sit low in it, you sit, you know, you feel the car can envelop around you. Everything is a hand stretch away. You know, the only thing that I can really criticise the driving position for is, as I always do, the slightly thick steering wheel. And I know some people prefer that, so that's fine. Everything else, you just feel that you're in complete control of the car. It never feels like it's getting away from you. Yes, it's a big car. Of course it is. It's a 5 Series. You know, it's a large executive saloon. In this case, obviously a large estate car. But even so, it does feel like a car that you really can sort of, like, you know, take down a real twisty road and really enjoy the chassis dynamics of. The other thing as well is, again, it's that sort of double-edged sword. When you're not in the mood for that, when you just want to stick it on the motorway. I'm off to France in a couple of days' time with the family. I'd love to take this because it's just the car that you'd sit on a French autoroute with and just sort of like have the cruise control on, have your music on, roof box on, bikes on the back, kids asleep in the back. You know, it would just lap it up. You can do that with it as well. And of course, it's the practical side, you know, I get all the stuff in it. I'd love to do that. Okay, let's get into the finer kind of points of things here. So, good power, enough performance that you would expect. Refined, it's quiet when you want it to be. It's sharp handling when you want it to be. Refined, as I say, when you need it to be. All of that, perfect. You can obviously change your different modes. You can go through your My modes. You can have it in sport mode, you can have it in more kind of efficient mode, you can have it in more in comfort mode, you can do however much you like with it, that. So as I say, there's a real breadth of ability with the i5. Now that wee pulsing noise you hear there is because I'm just venturing above the speed limit. It's got my speed limit warning. All you do to turn that off is you press and hold the set button. Speed limit warning deactivated. That's it. Nothing else defaults on. That's the only thing that does, and that's what, again, what I love about it. It's just one button press and it's off. It's fantastic. If you do need a little bit of an extra squirt of power, you've got this boost paddle. So if I pull that, I get 10 seconds where it's like, whoa, maximum attack mode. Everything's dolloped to the wheels, and you know, you can really get a hustle on. So it's a sport mode, but it's 10 seconds of the sport mode. If you just need to squeeze past something, you know, on a country lane or a dual carriageway or something, you can just pull that paddle rather than having to go into sport mode, and it'll just give you that instantaneous kind of power boost. How cool is that? I thought it was a bit of a gimmick at first, but actually there's a couple of times where I have actually used it on my iX2. I do find it quite useful, as I say, especially if you're out in the countryside and you need to just squeeze past something really quickly. The seats are superb, as I said earlier. You know, the relationship you have as a driver with the car is, you know, beyond reproach, I think. 5 Series has always been very good for that. You know, as I say, you always have a really good driving position. Okay, I'm quite average in terms of, you know, sort of like height and build and stuff like and so forth. But, you know, even so, it feels right for me, certainly. You know, that this you know, this position that I've got with the car, this relationship, as I say, apart from the steering wheel, so can't fault that. The handling's very, very good. Now, in the M60, you get this adaptive, you know, sort of like suspension, you know, adaptive shock absorbers, electronically controlled dampers, all of that. You don't get that on the eDrive 40. It does have air suspension at the back as standard, however, so more self-leveling, but it's passive dampers, you know, around the rest of the car. But again, you know, as you'd expect with BMW, they're set up so well that it always feels well connected to the road. And as I say, with the power going to the back wheels only, the steering never feels corrupted. You never feel that there's a little scrabble of power just trying to get through the front wheels, you know, if you pull out of a wet junction or something. Obviously you've got the traction control to stop the rear wheels from spinning up, but it doesn't corrupt the steering that you sometimes get when there's a motor delivering power as well as making the front wheels trying to steer as well. So you don't get that either. So as I say, it's a real jack of all trades, master of all, this car, I think. I remember selling Citroens back in the early 90s when the ZX came out. An Autocar ran an article that said, you know, the ZX 1.4 Avantage, the best car in the real world, because it just did everything right. You know, there was nothing really wrong with it. It did badly. I think this is kind of the same. I mean, okay, it's a lot of money, as we will soon find out when we talk about the price of it. But gosh, what this car is capable of is absolutely fantastic. A couple of other things to talk about as well is obviously you've got your adaptive brake regen, so you flick it into the B mode, and then you've got your one pedal driving if you want, or you can set it up so you know, so you've got auto hold and you've got various different bits and pieces, so that you've got an adaptive brake regen, which is quite nice. It does take a little bit of getting used to that. You know, when the car slows down more than maybe you would have done as a driver, but you soon learn it and you soon get used to that. I have with my iX2, I have to admit, and I do quite like that more adaptive mode that you get with it, rather than having the full-on B mode where it just feels like it's too aggressive, the brake regen. Otherwise, I can't really fault it, and I really can't. I mean, as I say, I'm not saying the car itself, you know, is perfect because of certain elements, mostly financial. But in terms of the way that it drives, you've got something that's comfortable, refined, fast, dynamic when you need it to be, practical when you need it to be, but also relaxing and, as I say, refined when you don't want it to be those other things. It's not many cars that I genuinely really struggle to find proper fault with. You know, no one makes a perfect car, of that being no doubt. But I tell you what, they've come close to it with this. They really have. This is superb. And as I say, as much as that power of the M60 is wonderful to have every now and again, in terms of the everyday practicality, again, I think it's this eDrive 40 that would be the choice for me. This is brilliant. Let's talk about specs, baby. eDrive 40 model, three trim levels. You kick the range off with the new Sport Edition at £69,945. Then you move up to the M Sport, which is just over £76,000. This is an M Sport Pro, which is just over £78,000. Then you move up to the all-wheel drive M60, which obviously you can have as a touring as well now, and that's a completely kind of separate model, and that comes in at £99,995, which is an awful lot of money, but then it is a very different car to this. And that's before options, and I think that's important because, you know, I've always had a bit of an issue with sort of like BMW's love of making you spend some money on options, and that's why I wanted to take a little bit more time talking about this particular car. So bearing in mind this car starts at just over £78,000, which is in itself a lot of money. But then it has the Cape York green metallic paint, the 20-inch M-Aero bi-coloured alloy wheels. It has the carbon fibre silver threads high gloss interior trim, so that carbon fibre kind of trim inside. Tow bar, panoramic sunroof, sun protection glass, crafted clarity controls, you know, the glass controls, the Bowers & Wilkins surround sound system. It then has a Technology Plus pack, which gives it an interior camera, driving assistant professional, parking assistant pro, live cockpit pro with head-up display, BMW natural interaction, whatever the hell that is, technology pack. And then you have the Comfort Plus pack on this car as well. And that comes with a heated steering wheel, comfort access, ventilated front seats, front comfort seats, travel and comfort system, front and rear heated seats, 4-zone automatic climate control. In other words, what I'm trying to say is the total cost of this car, where it started at £78,500, now comes to a rather heady, where was it? £94,175, which is a huge amount of money. 94 grand for a BMW 5 Series estate. But in fairness, you are getting an awful lot of car for that. But yes, this is not an inexpensive motor car. Blimey. Thing is though, what else are you going to buy if you want an estate car? You don't want an SUV. Well, you don't really have a huge amount of choice, do you, when you think about it? Okay, there's the Porsche Taycan Sport Turismo, but it's not really a big practical estate car. It's a good car, it's a really good car, and of course in terms of performance that is an exceptionally good car to drive, and it's a Porsche as well, and the Taycan is one of our favourite cars, and it just gives a bit extra practicality over the standard Taycan. But as I say, it's not really a big load lugging estate car like the 5 Series Touring is. Audi, however, are rumoured to be bringing out, they've changed their kind of naming structure now, and it's always been very confusing, Audi's naming structure, but basically what I think what they're trying to do is anything with an even number is going to be an electric car now. So they've done away with the A4, the saloon, that's now an A5 saloon, so the A4 when it comes out is going to be electric. And I'd assume the same is going to happen with A6, and if that is the case, you're going to see an A6 Avant, which will be all electric as well. So that could be a competitor for this. I suppose you could drop down a size into something like the Volkswagen ID.7 Tourer. I mean, it's still a big car, although it's the size below this in terms of the class. You know, it competes more with the i4 Saloon in terms of the ID.7 Saloon, but it does come with the Tourer estate. So if you do want practicality, there is that car available to you as well. Other than that, you really are into SUVs, aren't you, when you think about it? You know, whether it's the Genesis electrified GV70, the BMW iX, the Polestar 3, cars like that. So if you do want an estate car, you are limited. And I have to say, as expensive as it is a very good car. So here's what we like and what we don't like about the BMW i5 Touring. Well, we love its styling. We also like its performance and dynamics. Its comfort and refinement. And of course, the practicality that comes with the touring model. We don't like, well, the efficiency still is not as good as it should be. It is expensive. And it's not as well equipped as it could be, meaning that you have to add on options. And then, of course, the price of those options. The BMW i5 is a brilliant car. It's a good looking car, well certainly to my eyes anyway. And what it does is it does that thing that the 5 Series has always managed to do. It blends a real kind of driver's car with everyday usability and comfort and refinement that's bordering on luxurious now, I think, certainly in this 8th generation car. And of course the technology that's in the vehicle as well, as I say, I find it useful. I don't find it overwhelming, which is not something that you can say a lot about technology on some of the electric cars these days. Well, now with this touring, you can also add practicality onto that list of attributes. And that's why I think that the touring is the i5 of choice. But interestingly as well, whilst I loved the bombastic nature of that M60 that we had last year, I think the more balanced and well-rounded eDrive 40, the rear-wheel drive E40, could be the i5 that I would personally recommend to you. Last year it was really difficult to think of how BMW could have made a better car than the i5. This year, it would seem that they have. Thank you for watching yet another road test review on AutoEV. As always, please make sure that you are subscribed to the AutoEV channel. Then once you've done that, press the little bell button that's down below, because that's the way you get notified when our next video is uploaded and it's gone live. If you have enjoyed this video, then please make sure you give it a little thumbs up, and of course don't forget, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you think of the new i5 Touring? Your car of choice? Would you steer clear of it? Does the price put you off? As I say, it's not cheap. Have you ordered one? Why did you buy it? As I say, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Now remember, we're also across all social media platforms as well. So Facebook, X, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram. So please give us a follow there as well, because that helps us too. And maybe you're about to go and buy an electric car. Might not be a new one, might not be a new BMW i5, but you may be thinking of buying a used one, but you need to know more information about it. How do you find out? Well, what you do is you stick on the AutoEV YouTube channel and you wade through our back catalogue now, because if it's been a new electric car in the UK in the last 4 or 5 years, we've subjected it to the only road test review that actual car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric vehicle, the AutoEV one. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for continuing to support us. I'll see you again soon.